Hello, and welcome to the East Africa Business Podcast. This show is all about showcasing entrepreneurs who are building businesses in this exciting part of the world. From reading high-level articles about the region, it can be difficult to really understand what's going on, and so my hope is that these interviews somewhat bring it to life, as well as stoking your curiosity to go find out more. On that, do take a look in the archive for more episodes that we've done, but for now, let's enjoy the rest of this funky intro music and then get started with the show. Do you know what the world's most expensive nut is? It's the macadamia nut.
The major driver of the industry in Kenya is macadamia.
Similar in shape and colour to a chickpea, but up to twice the size, it's originally from Australia and is now grown in several tropical locations around the world. In Kenya, the first trees were grafted and planted in the 1970s, with a few disparate growers and aggregators, each individually trying to generate a market. 10 years ago, Charles Muigai founded Nutpak, an industry body for nut processors in Kenya.
My name is Charles Muigai. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Nut Processors Association of Kenya.
They deal with peanuts and cashews too, but the real business is in macadamias, where they represent Kenya's producers both at a national government level and also globally. Charles and I chat about all angles of how this industry is growing in Kenya, including the minimum farm gate price set for macadamia farmers, the process by which they are packaged and ultimately exported, and lessons other burgeoning industries can take for their role on the global stage. Without any further ado, here is Charles. Cool. So we're here today with Charles from Nutpak. Charles, welcome to the show.
Right, thank you, Sam.
That's all. So to get us started, could you tell us a bit about you and a bit about Nutpak?
Right, my name is Charles Muigai. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Nut Processors Association of Kenya, the association that is the umbrella body for industries that are processing macadamia, cashew, peanuts, and also adding value to the same for the end market. The industry is as old as, say, 45 years. Over the initial years, it was more of a monopolistic industry, but towards the year 2005, more players came into place, and the industry from then started to expand. By 2009, there were 4 processors, and based on the competition and competitiveness of the industry, there was need to consolidate. And this is when now we founded Nutpak, or Nut Processors Association of Kenya, in 2009. And the main thing was to create a platform that will support production and make the industry more sustainable in terms of what it produces and through our smallholder farmers, and also to interact globally. So it was now back and forward from production to the marketing, and also placing the Kenyan product at the global level as a competitive product that can compete alongside South African or Australian.
Oh, right. Okay.
The major driver of the industry in Kenya is macadamia. However, peanuts and cashew nut are still allied to the same, because most of these processes are composite, and they do these 3 nuts. So this platform has, over the years, engaged the government, but policy influence, also advocacy. And in 2009, we managed to lobby the government to put a ban on export of unprocessed macadamia nuts.
Unprocessed, okay.
Yes, and cashew nuts. And that has seen the industry grow 5-fold. Because at that point, the industry was producing around 10,000 metric tons of macadamia. But right now, we are towards 45 to 50,000 metric tons. So, and the plantings across the smallholder farmers in Kenya is growing by the leaps.
Okay.
And then it's growing very fast.
Very good.
So what we can say is that the consolidation of the industry and this platform has done a lot to bring the industry to the limelight. because hitherto the registration of this organization, not many people knew about macadamia. Right now, as we speak, we have 27 licensed processors. So you can see from 2009, from 4 to 27, that tells you a story. That many people came to understand the industry, found it attractive, they have come in. But now the next challenge is how to create a sustainable industry.
Fantastic.
Because
so we'll perhaps go into some of those a bit later in the interview. So just to be clear, Nutpak is an industry body. So you basically represent the nut processors that exist, and whereas before it might be difficult for one individual company to go and lobby the government, when they come as part of a group, you then have much more power.
They have legitimacy and the voice.
Exactly.
Yes.
Very good. So, out of interest, is your background in nuts?
No.
Oh wait, how did you come into this?
I would call myself an agribusiness trade consultant.
Okay.
I'm an expert in trade and also agribusiness.
Sure.
So, and I think that at that point, that's where I came to organize a workshop for the industry. And
but why did you choose nuts?
Well, it just happened by chance.
Okay.
I was facilitating a workshop on sustainability of the industry, sponsored by the Ministry of Agriculture as a consultant.
Yeah.
And then the thing we discussed then was that why should we look at it as a hostile competition arena? But I said it can be complementary again. So it's a question of how you look at it. And I think the wisdom that prevailed then was that we can bake a bigger cake and everybody gets a healthy slice of it.
Yeah.
So, and that is how now the what you can call the focus of Nutpak is.
Yeah.
Create a more sustainable industry, stimulate more plantings, stimulate more production, and then everybody gets a share of a sizable amount of produce.
Okay. Yeah. So basically you said you should do this, and they said, go on then, Charles, you do it.
Yes, and here I am 10 years down the line, I'm still doing it.
Very good. Okay, so for people who are perhaps unaware, could you give just a brief overview of the Kenya's history with nuts? So you mentioned macadamia, cashew, and peanuts. So those are the three. Historically, have those always grown here, or have they? Is it been a recently they?
Macadamia was first introduced in Kenya by an Australian, Bob Harris, early 70s, in Thika.
Thika is like an hour from Nairobi.
Yes, an hour from Nairobi. And from there, the first plantings were not commercial, but eventually the commercial production started. By around 1974, that's when the first company, the Kenya Nut Company, started processing macadamia. Okay,
and what does it look like? So nuts are grown on trees, or are they in nut plants? How are they? When you say that the first macadamia nuts were brought here,
it was brought as a seed nut.
It was a seed, and
then it was planted, and then multiplication through propagation and grafting. Yeah, that now multiply the seedlings. So macadamia is a tree.
Tree, okay.
Right.
Is it a big tree?
It's a big tree, yes. Okay. It's a sizable tree. It's a medium-sized tree. Okay. That can produce even up to 50, 60, 70 kilos, depending on how you feed the tree. It's a tree that has longevity. In terms of the tree can span 50, 60 years still in production. So once you plant the seedlings, it takes around 5 to 6 years for optimal production. But you'll get enough produce from the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th year. All the way to maybe another 50 years, the tree will still be productive. Okay, so the first macadamia trees that were planted when Bob Harris? When he came, they are still producing? They're still producing, yes. And they're still, and then and then eventually the tree will die? Eventually the tree will die, definitely, yes. Okay. As all trees do. Okay, and so what is it with the macadamia nuts? Is it like a pod? I'm trying to visualize where the nuts are on the tree. No, they're not. It's a fruit. Let's say it's a fruit. Okay, it's a fruit. So basically, you've got a macadamia tree. It has these. So imagine that it's a fruit that's growing on it, and then within that fruit, when you crack it open, there are the nuts. Right. Okay. Similar thing with cashews. Yes, similar thing with cashew. Yeah. Cashew is an apple-like, but with an offshoot of a nut also. Really? That you crack again to get the kernel inside.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then what do you do with the apple?
Well, in other places in the world, especially West Africa, I have seen they are making apple, cashew apple juice.
Cashew apple juice?
Yes, they are making that. They are also making cashew wine.
Really?
From the apple, yes. Okay. Yeah. So.
Do you do that here?
No, we don't do it here.
Why not?
We are not doing it because we don't produce enough cashew. There are challenges that are particular to where it grows at the coast. I think.
Cashews grow at the coast?
Yes, majorly grows at the coast, although we have some belts in the eastern province in Tharaka Nithi County, where we are also growing some cashew nuts.
What is there a reason why they grow at the coast?
I would say because of the sandy soil. It's also a coast-based crop. I think that's the ecological zone for it.
Okay.
Yes.
So are there other parts in East Africa or Africa where... So
it's still growing at the coastline. Okay. If you come from Kenya, Tanzania, all the way to Mozambique, you will find, yes. If you go to the coast of West Africa, from Cameroon there, you will go all the way to Senegal.
Okay.
You will find cashew on the coastline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas macadamia nuts are not native to...
So macadamia is not native to Kenya. It's native to Australia.
Australia. So they come... Are there any other
And
nuts?
Kenya is the first African country to start macadamia production.
Oh, really? Yes. Are there others that have now followed?
Then South Africa followed. And then other smaller countries, Mozambique, Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Rwanda, have now started, and Uganda is coming up also. Yeah, but Kenya is the third major producer of macadamia in the world.
So Australia
number one, South Africa number two, or thereabout. Kenya number three.
Yeah,
yeah. Then we have other countries like Guatemala, we have Brazil, we have Vietnam.
Okay,
they are also growing macadamia.
And so they've all taken this seed from Australia and taken it and began their own production in other parts.
In other parts of the world, yes.
Okay, so it takes about, so from the seed, this is quite interesting. So in 1970, this is when the first macadamia nut came. And since then it's been sort of flourishing. Who is growing the macadamia nuts?
Right, macadamia in Kenya, as opposed to the rest of the world, especially the big two, South Africa and Australia, they grow macadamia through large-scale plantations. But in Kenya, we are majorly on smallholder scale. And these small-scale holders, we are talking of a farmer with 10, 20 trees. Whoever is doing it more is maybe putting 1 hectare or 2 hectares. But majority, you will see it's a number of trees that is a main denominator here. As in, they will have 10, 50, 30, 40 or something like that.
Yeah.
And macadamia grows within the central Mount Kenya region.
Okay.
That is the home of macadamia.
And then what happens? So the smallholder farmer, they will buy some macadamia seedlings and develop a tree, and then 5 years later it begins to...
Yeah, what happens is that most of the processors, in their own interests, propagate seedlings.
Okay, so the process, got it. So it's not the farmer that starts the process, that starts the cycle.
It is the processor who propagates the seedlings, and then they avail the seedlings to the farmer at some price. Then the farmers now plant the trees, take care of the trees.
Yeah.
Then the processors take the produce from the farms, process, package, export. Yes.
Got it.
The main export destinations being Europe and the US.
Got it.
Though also Japan is also a buyer.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Japan, is that a recent thing? Japan wanting to buy macadamia nuts?
Yes. It's a traditional buy of macadamia since macadamia processing started in Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so the main agent the main person to get this thing going is a macadamia nut processing plant.
Yes.
And they'll basically say, right, we're going to set this up, and then, right, in order for us to process, we need to get some macadamia nuts, so we're going to go out into the local community and give people these trees to them.
I would call macadamia processors the epicenter of the business. Yeah. As in, the business both ways oscillates or revolves around them. Yeah. In terms of, as I said, production, they reach down or upstream, whichever you want to call it, and they go downstream to the market.
Yeah.
After they process. So they are in between.
Got it. And they're the ones that are...
Yes.
Okay. So
meaning that there needs to be, and that this is what the association is up for, to make sure that the farmer and the processor are tied to the hip. They must collaborate.
Yeah.
Because the processor doesn't have his own orchard. He's relying on what the smallholder farmer is producing. The smallholder farmer doesn't have his factory to process. So the two must work together.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a partnership of win-win. And that is why now the processors find it in their interest to propagate the seedlings, supply the farmers, create some intimacy with the farmer to make sure that the farmer is supported on production and best practices.
Yeah.
And then the processor will offtake the produce right from the farmer through different buying stations across the farmlands. And then after that, they will bring to the factory, process, and then forward the processed material out to the end markets in the US, Europe, or wherever.
Very good. Okay. In what state do the processors buy the macadamia nuts? As in, are they still shelled? They're still in their shell?
Yes, they buy macadamia is ideally supposed to drop on the ground when it's ready for harvesting.
Okay.
Yes.
So the farmer just goes around and collects
it? It's supposed to drop.
How often does that? How many seasons does it have? Does it happen once a year, or does it happen all year round?
There are trees that are all year round, but there is a peak season, and the peak season for macadamia is between April, June, July, and August. Then we have a short crop, November, December. Yes.
Okay.
So, but basically what happens is that the farmers now will consolidate the produce. They will remove the outer casing. We call the outer casing, the green outer casing, so that now they can now produce the nut itself. Right. Once they get the nut, the nut itself is what the processor will buy.
Okay. So the farmer will remove the outer casing.
Yes.
Of it. Okay. And then they'll take a bag and go to the processor?
They will go to different buying centers that are located within the villages, which are sponsored by respective buying companies.
Oh, really? Oh, so the smallholder farmers, they can choose which processor.
Which processor to sell to. They are liberty to sell to any.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are not bound by anyone. However, there are processors who have contract farming arrangements with particular farmers, especially those farmers who are producing organic macadamia.
Yeah.
So they have a pact between the two.
And if they were to do contract farming, the processor would say, I promised, so long as they meet a certain quality,
yes,
I promise to purchase.
They will put the parameters in, and then they'll put the price index for it. And then the processor will go for the nuts at probably the nearest point where the farmer is.
Okay. Yeah. Roughly, how much does it cost for, let's say, a kilo of unprocessed macadamia nuts?
We call it farm gate price for macadamia.
Price.
And farm gate price for macadamia in Kenya is, I think the closing price for the season 2018-19 was $2.
$2.
Yes.
So $2 per kilogram.
$2 per kilogram
is the farm gate price.
Yes.
Okay, so that the processors there, if they want to buy 100 kilograms, they'll pay $200, and they got it. Cool.
Yes.
So
that makes macadamia the most lucrative crop in this country.
Really?
Yes.
On a per kg basis.
On per kg basis, the most lucrative.
Really? And what is that? Just because it's
it is purely an export. It's 97% export.
Okay.
So what I can say is that the global production of macadamia is under 220,000 metric tons.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it represents 2 to 3% of the tree nut, or the tree nut family.
What do you mean the tree nut family?
Tree nut, any nut that grows on the tree, cashew included, peanut, walnut.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's 2-3%. Okay. So the farm gate is $2. What are the main things that the processor is doing?
The main thing is that because the farmers don't have the technology to preserve macadamia at the farm level, because macadamia is sensitive, you need to dehydrate to remove moisture from it. So the first thing the processor will do is to remove the moisture. Most of the times the farmers will give their produce at 20 to 30% moisture content. And the processor has to drive that down to 1.5.
And how do they do that?
They do it through dryers. There are dryers that are blowing out
like a big
the
fan.
moisture with the fan, yes, and boilers and all that to kind of expel the excess moisture in the nut to around 1.5.
But what happens then? So they've been dried out. What's the next step?
Then the next step is cracking.
Cracking.
Cracking, yes.
Okay.
Cracking is now shelling, removing the shell.
Okay. Oh, so you dry them whilst they're still in their shell?
Yes, you dry when they're still in shell.
Why is that? I would have thought it makes sense to do it when they're...
No. It will change its biochemistry if you are to break it and then you'll be roasting it. And the roasting is the last stage,
Okay,
basically.
I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. All right, so then you crack the shell.
Yes. You crack the shell and then from there you start the grading process. Yes, remember you have bought from everywhere. Macadamia is graded according to sizes. There are like 7 or so grades from style 0 to style 7.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that is Kenyan, but there are other origins that have different classification for it.
And the basic thing they're looking for is like size.
Size is the basic premium.
Yeah.
Size is
so
the basic premium.
The bigger, the more expensive.
The bigger, the more expensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they then get graded, and then what happens? So then, does that mean there's like all the grade 7 go in one bucket, all the grade 6 go in another?
You see, different customers require different sizes for different purposes.
Okay.
For instance, the pieces and all that may be required to go for the ingredient market. Well, you want to make cakes using macadamia.
Oh, okay.
You want to make cookies using macadamia,
Yeah.
as an ingredient to
ingredients.
something.
Yes, sorry.
Ingredient, yeah.
So they don't care if it's a really big because they're going to just.
But you see now for the snacking sector of the market, you want to have that good appealing, big and all that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they get roasted, or is there?
It gets roasted, salted, and whatever people want to do with it up there. Yeah.
This all happens in the same factory?
No, it doesn't happen basically in one factory because some of the buyers in the US would want to roast it near the end market.
Ah, okay.
So it will be sent to the US or the Europe in that intermediate form.
At which stage do they normally get sent off?
It's at the kernel. We call it the kernel, as kernel. Kernel meaning you have removed the shell.
Okay.
And you have graded based on size and such. Then you can send it as such.
Okay.
Then it should go on the final step in the end market, whereby now the final value addition will be done.
And so, but some
is done here, and that's why you find their products in the supermarket of the finished products that you can ready to eat.
Do you export to some countries when you have roasted it, or?
Yes, there are some people who are sending their brands to Europe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that means that. So you basically said, here it is.
Yeah.
Did you package it for those European?
Yes, you package for them. You find them also in the airlines. You find the British Airways is using a Kenyan macadamia product.
Okay, but
you go to Kenya Airways, you will find they're using Kenyan macadamia product.
But the branding is.
Yes, the branding is a joint branding between the airline and the local company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There were 4. There are now 27.
27 players right now, and counting.
And counting. All right. Yeah. Have you got some new ones?
Well, people get interested in business every year.
Yeah.
New people will definitely get excited.
Yeah. Okay. How attractive is it as a business? Like, what's the sort of the rough startup capital you'll need? What are the sort of returns you expect?
I think what the major challenge to new entrants is what I can call, quote unquote, barrier to entry. Because you have to buy the produce from farmers upfront.
Okay.
You either have the cash or you don't.
Yeah. And typically, in order to do it properly, how many kilograms do you think you're going to need to buy?
I would say you will be sustainable, you'll break even at around 300.
300 tons?
300 tons.
Okay. So you need to pay $600 of raw material. If it's 300.
So what you're saying is that you need 300 tons, the metric tons.
Oh, tons, not kilograms.
No.
Gosh. So 300 times 1,000 times 2. Oh, right. So you need what? That's like 600,000.
Yeah.
Right, so in order to be viable,
US dollars.
$600,000. Yes. That is what you call a barrier to entry. Yeah, okay. So
you can see the figure is prohibitive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then how much would the equipment cost?
Depending. You can go manual and crack with a ball peen hammer.
Yeah.
Which is now labor intensive. Again, that pushes the cost of labor high, and also the risks of food handling and all that. Or you can go now for roller crackers that now are mechanical, that will now crack bigger volumes at a time, bigger batches at a time. It depends on the size that you're buying. But I think at the processing point, you will need to probably put $20,000.
Okay.
$20,000 to maybe the infrastructure you need at the processing stage. Okay. You need to put
So we're looking at roughly $620,000 to get going.
Yeah.
But what's the upside? So let's say you've got 300 tons. Well, let's say a kilogram costs $2 at the farm gate. Once it's processed, how much might you be selling?
You also need to understand, for you to process 1 kilo, you will need 4 to 5 kilos.
Oh, really? Oh, there's that much?
Yes, there's that difference, because you see the shell is heavy also, and you don't need the shell, you need the inner.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so it's not kilo to kilo.
Ah, okay.
There is a ratio between now the kernel you get, that is now the consumable part, and now the fruit the farmer sells to the processor.
Ah, okay.
And then remember, you bought this macadamia at 20 to 30% moisture content.
Yeah, so that's going
to go to dehydrate that to 1.5.
Yeah.
So it's not as in corresponding.
Yeah.
Because there are several processes that are here, and that's what I'm saying, a factor of 4.
Factor of 4. Okay, so
1 to 4.
1 to 4. So for every 4 kilograms of
macadamia in shell, in the nut form, will yield.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you say they need to buy 300 tons, they need to buy 300 tons at the farm.
Divide by 4.
Divide by 4. Okay, so they're going to end up with 75 tons that they can sell. Okay, so how much does a kilogram of processed?
Depends again on a good and a bad year, but I could put, and again the grades, that I could probably put per kilo at around $15.
Okay, so 4 to 1. So basically you're saying you need to pay roughly $8 at the farm gate to get $15.
Yeah.
Process. Okay. Is this what most processors are doing? They're basically playing the volume game.
It's a volume game.
And they're basically saying, if you're saying the minimum is like 300 tons, what's the maximum capacity that a processor has?
The big processors are doing, say, 8,000.
8,000 tons. Okay.
8,000 metric tons. Yeah. But then you'll find that people who are doing 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, but the largest in Kenya is doing around 8,000.
You said that most of it is going to exports.
Yes, it's 97%.
Yeah. How's that sort of like facilitated? As in, is this the sort of thing where you need to have trade agreements, or is it?
It's buyer to buyer.
Okay.
As in buyer to seller, so to speak.
Yeah.
As in, there are several buyers in the US and commodity traders or brokers who are linking to the end users and the supermarkets and such.
Okay, so it's mainly going through. Macadamia nuts are basically being treated as a commodity. So it's going there.
It goes as a commodity.
So it's not like
distributed in different places.
I see. So is there like the macadamia nut exchange or something? Is there like a...
No, there's no formal exchange like the coffee.
Okay, there's not like
it's not that.
Auctions.
It's not auction driven. Okay. What there is that there are commodity brokers who collect and then serve the end markets.
I see.
Yeah, or there are also direct sales to supermarkets.
Yeah,
big supermarkets that will go and value and even roasters, independent roasters who also will buy, go and roast, and then have their own retail brands.
Okay.
In their markets.
Is it that the macadamia nut industry is still in its infancy, and that one day it will get like an auction like there is with coffee and tea, or is it that the dynamics are or the characteristics are different?
I would say that maybe there would be an auction market for macadamia, but again, it must be voluminous for it to qualify to be in an auction system. Okay. It must also attract enough players for for it to qualify to be at that stage. So it's a volume and players kind of dynamics that are critical here.
Okay.
And again, depends, will it be necessary?
Yeah.
What solution will be solving? Because if the market to market, business to business model still works, then maybe the need for an independent auction system necessary. Because price discovery between major buyers and sellers, they are interacting one-on-one, and still they are finding it comfortable because the price points they get is agreeable.
Yeah.
So again, that may not make the auction necessary.
Yeah. Okay. So the fact there is enough transparency in the market,
yes, doesn't probably
mean it's necessary.
Make it necessary.
Okay. Interesting. And when you say things like the supermarket, so we're talking about like a US supermarket.
You're talking of the Costco's.
Okay. And so they'll say they'll be wanting to do Costco own brand macadamia nuts.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to think. So if I'm Costco, I'm the head of Costco, and I say, right, we need to get our own brand macadamia nuts, and I'll then say, right, you need to go out and find a broker, someone who can go and source them. That broker will be speaking directly with the macadamia nut processors in Kenya.
Yes.
Understood. And then they'll say, okay, well, these are the conditions. We're going to buy. Then we'll engage in a contract. We'll buy this many tons for the next 12 months, for example.
Correct.
And where does Nutpak play in that sort of interaction that's happening? Where does
what happens? You see, we are what we can call. We are also a trade facilitator.
Okay.
Right, because as the association, that our interest is to make the business environment, local and international, conducive and supportive of the entrepreneurs and the processors to do business.
Yeah.
Right, and we also are the voice of the Kenya nuts family with other origins. Because other associations, there is a SAMAC of South Africa, there is AMS of Australia, and others from different countries. You see, all of us now form the International Macadamia Symposium, which is a biannual meeting point to share best practices in terms of production and especially majorly on production.
Okay.
Then we have the annual meeting that is under the auspices of the International Nut Council.
The International Nut Council?
Yes, that now is what you can call the market benchmark.
Yes.
Whereby now the buyers and sellers and all, meet annually, kind of to share the experiences, the innovations, the statistics.
Where do they meet?
We meet in different capitals of the world.
Okay. Where was the last one?
The last one was in the US. We met in the United States, in Miami, Florida.
Miami. Okay.
Yeah.
The International Nut Council. That sounds quite a fun organization.
Yes, it's a huge organization that is based in Spain, Barcelona.
It's based in Spain. Okay. And so that's basically any nut people, anybody in the nut industry would want to attend.
Wow, that is a mega. That's the mecca of
the mecca of nuts.
Of the nuts industry. Everyone wants to do that.
Did you go last
year? Yes,
I
was in the.
I mean, is there any sort of rivalry between nuts? If you meet someone like, I'm a macadamia nut farmer, and they're like, well, I do cashews, or someone's like, I'm wondering it purely of like. Are there certain nuts which are seen as more prestigious?
Definitely, macadamia is more prestigious than all the other nuts. So it's called the king nut.
So when someone meets and you say, I do macadamia nuts, they're like, oh my gosh, I only do walnuts. Like you're
not necessarily to that extent, because you see, when you talk of walnuts, when you talk of almonds, the dynamics of how they grow is different from macadamia. So they're voluminous, they produce a lot.
Yeah.
So it's not a question of which is superior than the other.
Okay.
No, not necessarily so.
Okay, right. and there'll be various people sort of giving talks about best practices. Well, I'm interested, what are some of the innovations that are happening in the macadamia nut?
You see the major innovations, especially at the International Nuts and Dried Fruit Council. It's looking at nutrition research.
Yeah.
It's looking at different ways and cuisines that can take macadamia. How many other ways can we consume the nuts in general?
Okay.
Right? Do we go heavy on snacks? Do we go heavy as ingredients in other food items? So it's a question of the versatility of consuming these nuts in different forms, in different forms in terms of also demographics. How will children find this nut more palatable?
Yeah.
So that's a research point.
Right.
Right? Yeah. If you're talking about nutrition challenged people, in what form? Is it pulpy? How do you give it to them and all that? Again, that's a research point. You're talking about now that people want to eat more nutritious foods, they want to run away from issues of heart attack. They want to run away from issues of cholesterol. You see, that's a research point again, because you say macadamia is cholesterol free. So you see, you need to disseminate that. Research needs to be done. So most of the things is about doing research, disseminating research across the board. Innovations in terms of processing. What are the new machines that are more efficient, more cost effective and all that requires. So what I can say is that the conference around International Nut Council is around the innovations, production, marketing, consumption, data sharing, statistics. What's the market outlook? So it's quite dynamic. It's full of information that is across the industry that makes you now more prepared to do business.
Got it.
If you go now to the International Macadamia Symposium, it is majorly now on the production side. The agronomical, post-harvest management systems around it, just to see how can we produce the best nuts, what is the research on the best yielding varieties, what the best research on crop husbandry, best practices in post-harvest management and all that, pest management, with all those issues around production, how do we optimize production? So that is majorly the symposium issue.
Very cool. Okay. Has one of the themes recently been this trend of people eating less meat and nuts being a good source of protein?
And that's the thing we're talking about, a substitute. They're saying macadamia oils or macadamia nut itself, it has unique nutritional parameters that are better than animal proteins or animal fats or something. Right? But anyway, that is the province now of the medical nutrition research people. Yes. Okay.
Very cool. Okay. So is there scope, do you think, that if supply was able to increase,
if supply was able to increase and the farm gate prices were to go down, then the end market shelf, supermarket shelf price or retail price would go down.
What do you reckon is a realistic farm gate price that could go down?
We did a gross margin on macadamia production at farm level, and it cannot go beyond 0.4 of a dollar. Right.
So currently it's at $2, and it won't be able to go below.
The production cost cannot go above 0.4 of a dollar.
I don't quite understand when you say the production cost.
We're talking of, you see, production cost means all the investment you put in place before you harvest or before you sell.
Before you sell, okay.
And I'm saying it cannot in any way be more than 20% of the sale price.
When you say it cannot, what?
Because we have done the gross margin analysis for the crop. What does it take for you to produce a kilo of macadamia? And we are saying in Kenya, for you to produce a kilo of macadamia, your investment cannot go beyond 0.4 of a dollar.
Okay. Yes. What are some of the ways in which macadamia nuts are being eaten? So
it's majorly the major market for it is snacking.
Yeah.
The way you get and snack on the way. But the growing one is macadamia being incorporated in other specialty foods.
Okay.
Yes, as an ingredient. Yes, and that is now the growing area.
Because what is it about macadamia nuts which makes them? What do they have which other nuts don't have?
One, they have a very nice taste profile. Probably that's why you like.
Absolutely, yeah.
They have a superior taste profile. They are crunchy, very palatable. They have quite a good character around it. And then, as I say, the nutritional analysis for it. They are one cholesterol free. They will give you, I don't have all the nutritional parameters, but you will see
it's very good, isn't it?
It's very good.
Yeah.
It's recommended.
Yeah.
As a healthy snack, especially for weight, cholesterol lowering, and all that. So it has a good position in the nutritional matrix.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, so we'll just do a few more questions, if that's all right. What I'm interested in is, as you said, 10 years ago, you were an outsider. You didn't really know much about the nut industry, and now you're here, sort of at the head of this industry body. What have been some of the biggest insights you've had along that journey?
I think the big of the insight is that it's looking at the sustainability factor for an industry, and for you to make an industry competitive, you got to understand the issues of the denominator issues.
Okay.
Understanding that you must protect denominator issues and then fight above or compete above the denominator issues. And denominator issues means the fundamental issues that you need to sort out first.
Okay.
You need to sort the issues of production. Mm-hmm. You must produce enough in terms of good quality. You must produce enough also in terms of good pricing points, right? You must produce through smart agriculture so that whatever you are doing is in tandem with best practices for it. You must also work within and create the conducive environment for you to be able to acquire the raw materials. Remember, most of the processors here don't have their own farms, so they are relying on the farmer. So they must do production support, and that's what I'm calling the denominator issues first. Then you compete when you have sorted the fundamental issues. If you start fighting below the fundamentals, you collapse the industry, right? So to create competitiveness, the word competitiveness is very important. Competitiveness at farm level, let the farmer earn their due margin, right? Then let the processor earn his due margin, and let the customer get the best value for the product they buy. Yeah. So that trajectory is what will create a stable industry. Then again, the learning point is about the collaboration with government. Government requires to understand that for an industry to thrive, you got to provide the right policies for it. And as I have said, I have seen the ban on exporting and processed macadamia in Kenya has accelerated the growth of the industry from 4 to 27, from 10,000 metric tons to 45,000 metric tons in a span of 10 years. That tells you the growth factor is good.
Yeah, and I guess that also means that rather than selling produce at $2 a kilogram, you're selling it at $15 a kilogram.
That's the thing. The value extraction is high.
And that all that extra $13 is kept.
It's captured here. It's retained in the country.
Yeah.
So value addition is important, in my view, because the retainer value to the origin country is high. Why would you want to export dollars and jobs?
Was there any backlash?
There was a backlash because you see people will have their own vested interests around every issue. But you see the bigger picture or the bigger agenda will always prevail.
How did you overcome?
We lobbied the ministers responsible for agriculture to really understand what is this value capture that we are fighting for. Because what you are saying is that can we keep as many jobs local? Can we earn as many dollars and bring them to the country? That's foreign exchange and such. How do we do that? We do that by manufacturing. There is no country that develops by exporting raw materials. No.
Yeah. And what do you think is next for Nutpak in the next?
The next is now to consolidate the industry further.
Okay, when we say consolidate, what do you
Consolidating means that we are looking at the success factors and how those success factors hinge on making the entrepreneurs and processors more profitable.
Okay.
Right? We are looking at how, rather than having it fragmented, it's a question of how do we bring everything together so that everybody benefits from the synergies that accrue from joint effort.
What does that look like in practice?
In practice, what we mean is that we are looking at what are the issues that we need to address. We need to have early warning systems around the crop. Will there be a crop failure next year? We need to have an early warning system around it. We need to understand what are the agronomical challenges facing our farmers and address those issues, including extension. How do we go and disseminate best practices across our farmers? Crop quality. How do we manage the crop quality across these diverse farmers? What are the programmings that we need to put in place to make sure that we consolidate and standardize production across many farmers so that we can have a crop that is as good as what you find in Australia, as good as you find in South Africa, because all of it is competing in the same marketplace. Yes.
And that's something which Nutpak will be.
Yes, that is cut out for the association to make sure that synergies are brought together and people are achieving the grand picture or the strategic picture together.
So how does Nutpak make money?
The association gets its money from subscriptions.
Okay, so the 27 processors.
The 27 processors. They each pay based on the size.
Okay,
yes.
So you'll basically say, based on your production?
Based on the, not production, processing, the amount of nuts you process.
Okay.
So we have a formula.
And they'll pay an annual fee?
They pay that an annual fee, yes.
Yeah, and so just to sort of finish up, people are looking to learn more about what Nutpak does, or looking to perhaps buy some of their own nuts, buy nuts that are grown in Kenya. What are some of the best ways that people can learn more about what it is that you do, and perhaps get in touch with some of the producers?
I think what we do is that we have our learning platforms, especially at the farm level. We do a lot of field days to educate farmers on the emerging best practices and giving them our expectations as processors and what we require them to do so that they can produce the right quality material. We also disseminate the research, the new research that we get from our international partners that are doing macadamia and such. We also lobby and educate government, especially the county governments, to really understand the position of the crop and how it can change and impact the lives of the common person, especially the farmers are in the rural areas. As we have said, it's one of the most lucrative crops on our farms. That means it's an engine that can be very formidable in poverty eradication and such. So more resources needs to be put there naturally if something has the potential to change the lives of people.
Definitely, yeah.
But you see, that comes from awareness. We need to disseminate this picture, put the value proposition across to the counties so that they can see the value of the crop also. And then again, to kind of support the environment around processing, lobbying issues on energy, cost of power, cost of doing business across country, licensing and all that. We will get involved where we feel that it's adversarial to doing business.
Very good. And people who are listening at home, how can they learn more about some of these things?
We have radio programs
that
we do with vernacular radios that disseminate our information.
You have radio programs?
Yes, yeah.
What is in, you'll go on the radio and talk
Yes,
about...
we go on radio, we do announcements based on when we expect the crop to be ready and all that.
Okay.
So we do announcements to say where we have some education platforms, in collaboration with key stakeholders.
Yeah.
So the messaging to farmers, we also use a mobile phone system whereby we disseminate now SMSs based on different parameters or different information points that we feel are necessary to.
And if people want to buy macadamia nuts in Kenya, what's the best way for them to do that?
The international buyers?
Yeah.
The international buyers, as I said, we have a platform called the International Nut Council where the buyers and sellers mingle and do their deals.
Go through that way.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. Very good. Cool. Well, Charles, thanks so much.
Thank you, Sam. Excellent.
Before we head, just a quick moment to say thank you for listening. You can see show notes for this episode by heading to the new website www.theeastafricabusinesspodcast.com. If you'd like to learn more about the show and the work we do, then you can have a bit of an explore on the website and also subscribe to the various places such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and email. Finally, if you felt this was a good episode and you've been enjoying the show recently, then please do consider leaving a rating for the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. You could also tell a friend who's curious about these sorts of businesses that we feature. And indeed, if you know of a business that you'd like to be interviewed on the show, please feel free to reach out via any of the channels mentioned above, and we'll see what we can do to have an interview and showcase them on the show. In any case, have a great week and speak to you soon.